Name one celebrity that talked about me. The game most definitely ain't no celebrity.
That is Glorilla's older sister, Victoria Woods, publicly telling the world that the game is not a celebrity and that she cannot name a single song he has ever made. Now, the game, King of Rap Beef, finally gave her a reply. The spark that burned down the Woods family. In early February 2026, what began as a series of social media posts from a relatively unknown woman spiraled into one of the most visceral, emotionally charged, and widely debated family feuds the hip-hop world has witnessed in 2026. The woman at the center of it all was Victoria Woods, the older sister of Grammy-nominated Memphis rapper Glorilla, born Gloria Hallelujah Woods, the same Glorilla who had risen from the streets of Memphis to become one of the defining voices in female rap, powered by anthems like Yeglo, TGIF, the Megan Thee Stallion collaboration, Wanna Be, and her career-launching smash with Cardi B, Tomorrow 2. Victoria, who goes by Scarface or Brorilla online, was not coming with subtle implications or vague sub-tweets. She arrived with the kind of full-throated, scorched earth public accusations that leave no room for ambiguity and no easy path to reconciliation.
Y'all man, I'm talking about y'all favorite rapper. Y'all favorite rapper ain't shit, and I'm getting tired of it. Y'all mad. Y'all talking about some she ain't obligated. How the f she ain't obligated when she want to sit here?
Starting around February 4, 2026, Victoria launched a barrage of posts and live streams across Instagram and Facebook that collectively painted a devastating picture of alleged familial neglect. Her core claim was as straightforward as it was incendiary. Glorilla had abandoned their family despite her multi-million-dollar success. Victoria alleged that their mother was still working at FedEx, punching a clock and pulling shifts, while her daughter flew private jets and posed in designer outfits worth more than their mother's monthly paycheck. She claimed that their father was reduced to borrowing small amounts of money just to make ends meet. She accused Glorilla of financially neglecting their siblings. Glorilla has approximately 10 in total, including, Victoria stated, an autistic brother who had been overlooked entirely. Victoria painted herself as the one who had been covering the gaps, alleging she had personally helped cover rent shortfalls after Glorilla supposedly blocked their mother for asking for assistance. The picture Victoria was constructing was one of a rich, famous younger sister who had turned her back on the very people who had struggled alongside her through the roaches, the rats, and the crushing poverty of their upbringing, and the internet was listening.
I was so damn hungry, I damn near ate a roach.
Victoria did not limit her campaign to social media either. She took the story to mainstream media outlets, ensuring the accusations would reach audiences far beyond Glorilla's existing fan base and social media following. In a TMZ interview published around February 5th, 2026, she articulated in explicit detail what she believed Glorilla's financial obligation should be, citing the shared hardship of growing up in a household of 10 children with parents who were barely keeping the lights on, scraping together every dollar just to survive in a city that offered them very little in the way of opportunity or mercy. Victoria told the outlet that Glorilla had a clear, non-negotiable obligation to share the wealth with the family that had endured that hardship alongside her, and she put a specific dollar figure on it, $2,500 per family member, or at the very minimum, to Victoria herself, and the entire situation could be cleanly and permanently put to rest. The specificity of that demand electrified comment sections across every platform in the culture. Supporters argued that Victoria was simply asking for crumbs from a woman worth millions. That family is supposed to take care of family no matter what, and that you do not forget where you come from just because you made it out. Critics, however, saw something entirely different. They saw entitlement dressed in the language of victimhood, a woman who had not put in the work trying to cash in on a sibling, who had, a person using the vocabulary of generational trauma to justify what amounted to a public shakedown. And they said so loudly, repeatedly, and without mercy in every comment section and quote tweet that the story touched. What made the situation even more combustible was the history that most casual viewers were not yet aware of. Beneath the surface-level debate about money and family loyalty sat a far more disturbing foundation of violence and institutional involvement that stretched back over a decade. Resurfaced court documents from a 2015 Memphis incident revealed that Victoria had allegedly threatened Glorilla with a firearm, reportedly telling her younger sister to shut up before she shot her. A police affidavit from the incident noted that Victoria admitted to having a weapon, though she claimed it was hidden outside the residence. Glorilla contacted law enforcement and Victoria was arrested. This was not some trivial sibling squabble that could be chalked up to growing pains or teenage hormones. This was a documented incident involving a weapon and a police response, and it provided critical context for why Glorilla had put distance between herself and her older sister long before the record deals and the chart positions and the stadium tours ever materialized. The family fracture ran even deeper than that single incident. According to what would later be confirmed by family members during Glorilla's own live live response. Victoria had a long history of calling the Department of Children's Services on their mother, not once or twice, but repeatedly throughout the family's upbringing. Every investigation came back inconclusive because the other children refused to corroborate Victoria's allegations. While the rest of the siblings remained in the home, Victoria cycled in and out of foster care, living at various points with aunts, uncles, and state-provided accommodations. It was a pattern that fractured the family internally for years, creating a deep and lasting dynamic where Victoria existed somewhat apart from the rest of the Woods children, connected by blood, but separated by experience, by choices, and by a fundamental disagreement about what family meant and what family owed. That dynamic, dormant for years, was now being relitigated in front of millions of strangers with opinions and Wi-Fi connections. And the internet, as it always does, found a way to monetize the chaos. Victoria reportedly earned approximately $30,000 from donations and merchandise generated directly from the viral attention her accusations had attracted. In one of the more surreal moments of the saga, incarcerated rapper Tory Lanez reportedly sent Victoria $2,500 via Apple Pay after learning of her story, the exact amount she had publicly requested from Glorilla. To Victoria's detractors, this was the final piece of evidence they needed. The entire operation was a calculated clout grab, a woman exploiting family trauma for profit while positioning herself as the victim. To her supporters, it was proof that strangers cared more about Victoria's well-being than her own sister did. The truth, as it so often does in situations like this, likely lived somewhere in the murky middle. But Glorilla had not yet spoken, and the court of public opinion was rendering its verdict without hearing the defense. Glorilla brings the receipts and her parents. For nearly a week, Glorilla maintained a silence that her critics interpreted as guilt and her supporters interpreted as restraint. While Victoria's accusations snowballed across every platform and every blog with a URL, Glorilla stayed off the internet entirely, reportedly on the advice of people close to her who urged her not to feed the cycle. But by approximately February 9th, 2026, the pressure had become untenable, not because Glorilla cared what strangers thought of her finances, but because the narrative had begun to engulf her mother, portraying her as some kind of suffering martyr, shackled to a FedEx warehouse while her daughter counted millions, and that was the one line Glorilla was not willing to let anyone cross. So she did something that nobody anticipated. She went live on Instagram and Facebook with both of her parents on the call, transforming a potential defensive rant into a full-blown family testimony session broadcast to over 100,000 simultaneous viewers who had tuned in expecting drama and received something far more powerful, corroborated truth. Her mother was the first to speak, and she did not hold back. Without any visible coaching or hesitation, she began cataloging exactly what Glorilla had done for her: the monthly rent payments, the gifts, the complete lifestyle overhaul that had fundamentally changed the trajectory of her golden years. The details were granular and specific, the kind that cannot be fabricated on the spot or rehearsed convincingly. She revealed that Glorilla had purchased the exact car she had always dreamed of owning, a promise made when Glorilla was just 7 years old.
Yes, and let me tell you this. She bought me a car that I've always wanted.
It was not just any car. It was a childhood promise fulfilled decades later, delivered with the kind of specificity that made the moment impossible to dismiss.
Yeah, two-door Pontiac Solstice with only 7,000 miles, and it is beautiful, and I look good in that baby.
Then came the moment the entire internet had been waiting for, the FedEx revelation. Victoria's most potent weapon had been the claim that their mother was still working at FedEx, an image designed to humiliate Glorilla and make her appear heartless. The truth, according to their mother herself, was considerably more complicated and considerably less damning. Glorilla had retired, fully and completely. Her mother then secretly went back to work at FedEx on her own, working only 2 to 3 hour shifts, not because she needed the income, but because she wanted something to occupy her time and maintain her independence. She was so aware that Glorilla would disapprove that she actively concealed it from her own daughter. Her mother confirmed that she had apologized to Glorilla for sneaking back to work. The irony was devastating. The very job Victoria had weaponized as evidence of neglect was one that Glorilla had explicitly tried to eliminate from her mother's life, only for her mother to return to it voluntarily and secretly. And when Victoria's viral posts exposed the work location and her mother's schedule, their mother was forced to resign for safety reasons, meaning Victoria's supposed advocacy for their mother had directly caused her to lose the part-time position she had voluntarily chosen to keep.
Because she retired me. She did, and she said, this baby's been good to me.
The emotion in her mother's voice was undeniable and unperformable as she described the full scope of what Glorilla had done for her, the places she had been taken to, the experiences she never imagined having, the complete transformation of a life that had previously known nothing but hardship and sacrifice. Glorilla's father was next, and his energy was decidedly different, less emotional, more protective, more immediately assertive, carrying the tone of a man who had watched his family get dragged through the digital mud for a week and had reached his absolute limit. He made his position clear from his very first sentence.
Whatever happened in the Woods family ain't none of y'all goddamn business. That's my business. All them my children.
Glorilla gently reminded her father that Victoria had been the one to open this door by going public, which meant the public was inevitably going to walk through it and have their say. Her father conceded the point, but stood firm in his frustration. He loved all of his children, including Victoria, but what she was doing to the family was something he could not and would not support. When Glorilla asked him directly to tell the viewers how she treated him, his answer was so immediate and so specific that it functioned as a rebuttal more powerful than any press release or legal statement could have been. He listed cars, gifts of money, nationwide travel, and declared that his daughter had surpassed every expectation he had ever held. His voice carried a mixture of gratitude and indignation as he continued, repeating that Glorilla had done exceedingly and abundantly above anything he could have asked for. The word exceedingly appearing multiple times, as though no other word in his vocabulary could adequately contain the scale of what his daughter had provided. After ending the calls with both parents, Glorilla dropped the composed, measured tone she had maintained throughout the family portion and addressed her sister directly with the kind of controlled intensity that made clear she was holding back far more than she was saying. She referenced incidents from their childhood, things that were not on public record because she was a minor at the time, and specifically mentioned that Victoria had gotten her sent to jail for an entire week. The strategic brilliance of Glorilla's approach was that she simultaneously refused to air the full extent of the dirty laundry while making it abundantly clear that the laundry existed and that it was far more damning than anything Victoria had put on the internet. She then drew the firmest possible boundary, 6 words that left absolutely no ambiguity about where she stood. Her mother had also addressed the DCS history directly during the live, confirming that Victoria had called Child Protective Services 7 or 8 times over the course of the family's upbringing, with every single investigation returning inconclusive because the allegations could never be substantiated by the other children. The implication was devastating and unavoidable. Victoria had spent their childhood attempting to break the family apart through institutional channels, and when that failed, she was now spending their adulthood trying to break it apart through social media channels. The siblings who stayed endured the actual hardship together. Victoria, meanwhile, had been in foster care, receiving Jordans, as Glorilla pointedly noted, while the rest of them walked around in worn-out shoes. The narrative that Victoria had suffered the identical struggle as Glorilla was, according to the family's own live testimony, fundamentally and provably false. By the end of the broadcast, the tide of public opinion had shifted dramatically. Glorilla's receipts were specific, corroborated by both parents on camera, and devastating to the version of events Victoria had been selling for an entire week. But the drama was not done, because Victoria was about to make the catastrophic mistake of dragging in a celebrity who had absolutely no intention of letting it slide. The game enters the chat and the internet loses it. If Victoria Woods had simply kept her campaign focused on her sister and the family dynamics at the heart of the dispute, the story might have run its natural course and faded within a news cycle or two. Family feuds, even the ones that play out on Instagram Live in front of 100,000 viewers, tend to burn hot and fast before the internet collectively decides it is time to move on to the next piece of content. But Victoria, seemingly emboldened by the attention, the donations, the merchandise revenue, and the growing platform that the viral moment had afforded her, made a critical and arguably irreversible miscalculation. She started naming names that had nothing to do with the Woods family, and one of those names belonged to a man who has made an entire career spanning over 20 years and multiple platinum certifications out of never once in his life letting disrespect go unanswered. That man was The Game, born Jason Taylor, the veteran West Coast rapper behind certified anthems including How We Do, Hate It or Love It, and My Life, a man who has beefed with 50 Cent for the better part of 2 decades, challenged entire record labels, and has never once in his professional or personal life chosen to take the high road when someone came at him sideways. Naming the game was, by any reasonable assessment, the worst possible strategic decision Victoria could have made at that particular moment. During one of her many posts and lives amid the escalating drama, Victoria turned her attention to the game and delivered an assessment so casually dismissive that it practically guaranteed a nuclear-level response. She declared that no celebrity had actually spoken about her situation, then specifically singled out the game, insisting that he did not even qualify as a celebrity in her estimation.
Name one celebrity that talked about me. The game most definitely ain't no celebrity.
She continued by claiming she could not name a single song he had ever made, acknowledging only that she was aware he rapped without having any idea what his music actually sounded like. That clip, Victoria dismissing a multi-platinum, culturally significant rapper with the same energy most people reserve for declining a telemarketer call, traveled across Instagram and X at a velocity that only genuine, unfiltered audacity can generate, landing immediately on every hip-hop media page from The Shade Room to Complex to Hot New Hip Hop and beyond. Comment sections erupted with a mixture of disbelief, laughter, and gleeful anticipation, because every single person who has followed hip-hop for more than 5 minutes knew with absolute certainty what was about to happen. You do not tell the game he is not a celebrity and expect silence. You do not tell a man with Billboard plaques and decades of hit records that you cannot name a single one of his songs and expect him to shrug it off. That is simply, fundamentally, categorically, not how the man operates. The response arrived swiftly and with surgical precision. The game fired back directly on Instagram, and the line that became instantly iconic across every hip-hop corner of the internet was one that perfectly captured his ability to insult someone in a way that requires a full 3 seconds to fully process. He said he had never in his life seen somebody alive who had not been born yet until that day. The meaning landed like a delayed detonation. He was calling Victoria so fundamentally unknown, so spectacularly irrelevant to any conversation involving famous people, so completely non-existent in the collective consciousness of anyone who matters, that her very existence had been entirely theoretical up until the moment she decided to insert herself into a celebrity's mentions. It was ruthless, it was quotable, and it was shared, screen recorded, and reposted across every major hip-hop platform within minutes of being posted, gathering millions of views before Victoria could even formulate a response. But the game was not content to simply roast Victoria and move on to the next thing. He pivoted to Glorilla directly, with a message that functioned simultaneously as comedy and as genuine practical counsel. Come get your sister. The Shade Room amplified the moment with their signature flair, posting that the game had told Glorilla to come collect her sister after sharing a post responding to Victoria Woods following her previous mention of him. Additional clips of his extended response circulated widely, each one adding another layer to what had become a full-scale celebrity pile-on against a woman who had dramatically overestimated her ability to trade verbal jabs with professional entertainers. The overall message from the game was unmistakable. He sided with Glorilla, considered Victoria wildly out of pocket, and found the entire premise of a person embroiled in a family dispute over a few $1,000s attempting to question the celebrity bona fides of a man with platinum plaques on his wall to be cosmically, hilariously absurd. The game was not the only rapper who felt compelled to weigh in on the situation, as it continued to dominate every feed and timeline in the culture. The broader hip-hop community treated the Woods family feud like a real-time referendum on fame, family obligation, personal boundaries, and the limits of what blood relations can reasonably demand from one another. Finesse 2 Times went the hardest of anyone, directly and harshly criticizing Victoria in a video where he told her in no uncertain terms to get up off her backside and stop basing her entire financial future on what her sister had earned through her own talent and work ethic. His take was the least sympathetic and the most confrontational, and it drew significant pushback from Victoria's supporters who believed he was being unnecessarily cruel toward a woman, airing what they considered legitimate grievances born from genuine suffering. Boozy Bad Ass offered a more nuanced and measured perspective, speaking broadly about the impossible financial expectations that come with fame, and the reality that even the most generous artists in the world cannot financially support every single person who claims a connection to them. A take that neither fully sided with Glorilla nor condemned Victoria, but acknowledged with rare honesty the complexity and the pain inherent in the situation from both sides. And then there was Freddie Gibbs, whose contribution to the discourse was perhaps the most honest and relatable reaction of all the celebrity responses. According to Complex, Gibbs responded to Finesse 2 Times' clip on X by doing absolutely nothing other than laughing at it. He offered no analysis, no hot take, no carefully worded position statement designed to protect his brand, just genuine, unrestrained amusement at the sheer absurdity of the spectacle unfolding unfolding in front of him. Hot New Hip Hop characterized his reaction as simply enjoying the entire situation, which inadvertently made him the unofficial spokesperson for the millions of viewers who were treating the whole saga as the most entertaining, most dramatic, most impossible to look away from reality show that nobody had to pay a subscription to watch. The cultural debate that the Woods family feud ignited extended far beyond the specific details of who gave what to whom, when, and in what amount. It struck directly at a question that sits at the uncomfortable intersection of generational trauma, personal accountability, and the American dream itself. When one person escapes poverty and achieves extraordinary financial success, do they owe the family they came from? Victoria's camp argued passionately that shared suffering creates shared entitlement, that the bonds forged in roach-infested apartments and underfunded schools carry with them an implicit contract that success will be distributed back to its source, no questions asked. Glorilla's supporters countered just as forcefully that no one is entitled to another adult's earnings, regardless of blood relation, that Glorilla had demonstrably and verifiably provided for her parents in ways that went far beyond what most children ever do, regardless of their tax bracket, and that the estranged party now demanding money had a documented history of threatening her sister with a weapon and repeatedly calling Child Protective Services on their own mother over the course of many years. Neither side was entirely wrong, and neither side was entirely right, which is precisely what made the conversation so explosive, so personal to so many people, and so fundamentally impossible to resolve in a comment section or a quote tweet. As of mid-February 2026, the situation has quieted somewhat, but remains entirely unresolved. Victoria continues to post sporadically, though the volume and intensity have decreased markedly from the initial firestorm that consumed the first 2 weeks of the month. No reconciliation between the sisters has been reported, or appears to be anywhere on the horizon. Glorilla has returned her focus to her career and the firm boundaries she established during her live session, making it unambiguously clear that the door to further public engagement on this particular topic is closed, locked, and bolted. The game's involvement, while ultimately a footnote in the larger story of the Woods family's very public fracture, served as the viral accelerant that transformed a family beef into a nationwide conversation about fame, loyalty, sacrifice, and the true cost of coming from nothing. And somewhere in the middle of all of it, unbothered and fully entertained, Freddie Gibbs is still laughing. Thanks for watching. Check out other cards on the screen.